Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, non-binaries of all ages, welcome to How to Make a Literal Cat in Your Favorite RPG. We hope you're not here to learn how to do character creation the right way today, because this is the Cat Creation Podcast. I'm one of your hosts. My name's Joel.
I'm another one of your hosts. My name is Avalon.
And who are our guests?
Good.
That's right, we have two.
A little crowded in the studio here. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, I'm Addison, director, lead writer, social media guy, a couple other things for the agency of narrative, intrigue, and mystery, also known as Anim, and creators of Eureka, Investigative Urban Fantasy, and Silk and Dagger, a sensible drow RPG. With me is Ash.
I'm Ash. I'm the editor and co-writer for a lot of parts of Eureka, especially Chapter 7.
And one moment, where's my table of contents? Chapter 7, Advanced Narration and Homebrewing. Neat.
Well, welcome to both of you. Good to have you guys on the pod.
It is good to be here.
So, something we ask all of our guests. What are your, I don't know how to say this, credentials, I guess? Your podcasting, tabletop, etc. experience. Or cat experience.
I have a cat. Her name is Sweet Potato.
It's a good start.
We've been on a decent number of podcasts at this point. Just like
nice.
Getting interviewed and stuff. And Tiny Table Podcast did an actual play of Eureka. That was really good. And I normally hate actual plays, so if I'm saying it's really good. As for credentials of tabletop RPGs, I've played for a pretty long time and got into creating them probably around 2020, late 2021. But around that time, I also went out of my way to study game design and tabletop RPG design and research, both by reading theory and by just reading a bunch of very influential tabletop RPGs and checking those out. So despite we've only published the beta of Eureka and the alpha of Silk and Dagger, but I have a little more experience than that in practice and study.
Nice.
I've been playing RPGs for 15 years, ever since the early days of high school. And then, I grew up with RPGs as a part of my life even before that, with Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter Nights as far as video games go, but also just reading the books that my dad kept downstairs from his tabletop RPG days when he was playing when he was younger. I'm very familiar with the medium. While I don't have any professional credentials, I'm pretty obsessive about media analysis. So I like to think that, we're making something coherent and that I'm helping contribute to that.
You definitely know what we're doing.
They also wrote the book that we're looking at today.
I think that's credentials enough, to be honest.
That is true. That's mostly Addison.
All right. Anyway, would you like to tell us a little bit about the game that we're going to be looking at today?
Ash, can I voice that off on you?
Not a problem at all, yeah. Eureka is a game for running mysteries. It is an open-ended kind of toolkit-style RPG. It does have a narrow focus. It's opinionated about what it wants to do, just like any RPG is. But Eureka is a little bit broader in its scope than some other games. It is really broadly just a game for running mysteries, with an emphasis on the mundane. The full name of the game is Eureka, Investigative Urban Fantasy. So there are elements of the paranormal and the strange going on behind the scenes. Investigators may not always be just simply mundane people, but even the monsters are normal people after a sense. There's a great deal of focus on getting in the weeds with who these people are and putting them through stressful situations over a short period of time. It's very focused on module play, but at a really elemental level. It's a game that I think has a very innovative way of handling investigation and dealing with the perception problem, which I could go into a lot, but basically to really boil it down, just how do you determine what to tell the players about what their characters are seeing and experiencing? What information do you hide? What information do you make public? I think that Eureka arrives at a pretty elegant series of solutions to those problems, and in my opinion, it's the best on the market right now for handling mysteries and investigative gameplay, something that I feel has been sorely lacking in the space for a long time, even with games like Call of Cthulhu and Gumshoe, which obviously we think, you could improve on. Since we wrote a whole hundreds of page game about it.
This was written to improve upon those, because we played and liked those games, but they really didn't do what we wanted them to do as far as investigation went.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense. That's how people build on stuff. That's how we get cooler and cooler games.
Yeah.
So in a sentence, it is a broadly focused, mundane-oriented urban fantasy mystery-solving game.
All right. Well, and that is what we are going to be making a cat in today.
Indeed.
So, are there any other things that you think our audience should know about the game, or things that you want to know from us before we move on to the next step of this show, which will be going over basically the premise of the show and our rules before we get into character creation?
I feel like we could talk about Eureka all day, but I almost feel like its assumptions are going to be revealed through the process of character creation.
That's fair, they usually are.
Yep.
That's definitely part of it. There might be a couple of honorable mentions
Sure.
to bring up.
I mean, we're not going to talk about, like, the Eureka point system.
Yeah, I don't mean that. So I know that y'all don't do transformation into cat or anything like that. That doesn't count.
Right.
But there is risk/ability of transformation into cat possible in the rulebook. So I thought that might be an honorable mention.
So if you want to play as a cat, and you're not bound by our rules to play as a literal cat, then there is a way to just do that in the rulebook.
Yes, there are, in the back of the book, in the paranormal sections, there are 2 quote-unquote monster types that can potentially transform themselves or others into cats.
And another honorable mention, although unfortunately there is no currently existing rule set in Eureka for playing a literal cat, except as we may discuss in a moment, one potential avenue for that. There are rules for playing a literal dog. There is an archetype for a talking dog based on specifically Scooby-Doo.
Makes sense. I believe I saw a Tumblr conversation not too long ago about someone seeing a loophole in the rules where you could have a dog who has a pet dog, and that dog also has a pet dog, and so on and so forth.
That's been fixed, leading to the changelog note. Dogs clarified that dogs cannot own other dogs.
All right. With that out of the way, I think, Avalon, why don't we go through our thing real quick so we can get on to making this cat?
Yeah, let's do it.
But yes, this is a show, and on this show we have rules to ensure that we stay on target, on brand, on cat. We have to make a literal cat. That is the number one and arguably most important rule. We accept no cop-outs to that. We're making a cat, which will be the exact animal that comes to mind when I say the word, most likely. No anthropomorphic races, no people turned into cats, no lions, tigers, or any other cop-out that you can imagine.
Does that include Airbud rules?
We'll get to that in a moment.
Okay.
Yeah. So rule number 2 for us is we cannot use homebrew/house rules. If the rules in the rulebook do not explicitly allow something to happen, we count it as a rule broken. Can't imagine there's many homebrew rules out there for this game yet.
There's a few, but none of them are cats.
Yeah, there was a game jam. I have not had time to look into that yet, with everything else going on this month, so no official rules for playing as a cat yet.
No.
We might work on that, who knows. Anyway, rule number 3 is, if the game includes stats for a literal cat, those must be used or adapted to the game's character sheet. I don't know if this has like a formal stat system. That's more like a thing for heroic fantasy and dungeon crawler games.
We'll talk about that.
We'll see when we get to the character creation.
Sounds good.
Rule number 4, the character, class, background, playbook, job, what have you, must exist in the game's core rules or as part of an official expansion. Again, we cannot use homebrew classes. Homebrew doesn't exist.
No worries there, because Eureka doesn't use splats of any kind.
Okay. Rule number 5, the cat can learn any skill available to its class, even if it's not something a cat could normally be trained to do.
Solve mysteries.
Yeah, this cat will be an investigator.
Cats are curious, but I don't know if they're curious enough to take it all the way, you know?
This one is.
Rule number 6 is, if a tool would be physically impossible for a literal cat to use, even if comically downsized for them, they cannot use it. And I'm gonna say that includes a magnifying glass and a smoke pipe.
Well, maybe the pipe. But yeah, they can't use the glass.
Very famously, you can put a hat on a cat.
Yes. That's totally fine.
We have cats who wear hats all the time. If a character sheet has a section that's meant to be filled out in collaboration with the whole table, we leave that blank so potential players can make it fit the group they're playing with.
Okay.
Sorry, that's rule 7.
Lastly, rule number 8 is we have to keep track of every rule that we break. And I'm sure 2 lovely guests will make sure that we are staying mostly in line with the rules.
That's why we like to have developers of the games on the show.
Awesome.
That's it for our rules. Ready to jump into some cat creation?
I'm certainly ready.
All right, let's do this.
Also, very big character sheet. I'm interested to see what page 4 is about.
I'm really proud of it. Brandon did that.
A lot of this is for use during sessions, but
Okay.
we're mostly going to be on the first 2 pages.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I do love the page 4 graphic, though. It's very good.
Yeah, this is
well,
for any serious injuries accrued by the investigator.
We may end up using that page. That's going to be up to you.
Interesting.
Probably starting down at chapter 2, how to make a character.
The chapter begins on page 126, and the actual rules at this point start on 129, with the note to not share character sheets.
Yeah.
In case anyone didn't know, any viewers didn't know, at this time, the game is in beta. It's fully playable and really good, but the art isn't finished and the editing is not finished.
But you can pick up the beta for free.
Yes, it is free on itch.io. You can also optionally pay us. It's pay what you want.
It's probably worth the money, even if the art's not all there yet.
It is. Trust me, it is.
Right. Well, I do hate to divert us from the character creation rules, but right away I do need to ask, what is your policy on Airbud rules? Because while there is a definite assumption that investigators are human beings, that is very clear throughout the text, it is never explicitly stated that they can't be cats.
Oh, that's what you meant by Airbud rule. I thought you meant, okay.
Okay. So, yes, that's one of our rules. That is, if the rules in the rulebook do not explicitly allow something to happen, we typically count that as a rule broken.
Okay, so it should be explicit allowance.
Yes, so
Okay.
we can infer from these rules that we are supposed to be playing as a human. That is the intention, and we are, by playing as a cat, not playing the game as intended. So that is typically our number 1 rule broken.
Yep.
I would not have allowed that loophole to fly, personally, as the game designer.
That's fair enough.
So you do not like Airbud rules, it seems.
So yeah, playing as a cat is a rule broken right off the bat.
Yes.
Investigators are humans.
Unless they're a talking dog. Which...
Well, sure, unless there's something in the back of the book, but by default, investigators are human.
Most of the monsters are also classified as human.
Okay, let's start from step 1, I suppose.
It's usually the best place to start. You have come up with a concept.
Concept is a cat, I assume.
Yeah.
Yes, but it's more than a cat.
What else about this cat?
What kind of cat? Yeah. Hard-boiled.
Hard-boiled.
Well, our general advice on coming up with a concept is just a really general set of, just like a really general idea, a really general descriptor, because they get built out a lot more thoroughly in later sections, and you get to learn who they are more. But at this point, it's just, a set of adjectives, really. Some of the things we discuss are like a nosy neighbor, a burnout college student, an investigative journalist, a private eye.
So this would not be the point to say that melancholy saxophone music plays behind this cat everywhere it goes.
Not yet, no. if that's the kind of mood they give off. But yeah, I would say also at this point, it's worth noting that in general, the player is going to know what module or adventure they are making a character for, which is also going to inform the context. Because we do want investigators to be integrated into like the world and scenario they're being dropped in.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's a way to kind of get a deeper story out of it.
Mm-hmm. Since we don't know what adventure is going to be used in this case, I would suggest doing something general purpose, like a recurring style investigator. A lot of those tend to be investigative journalists, private eyes, or part of some other profession that gets them involved in a broad range of different mysteries.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so I guess what are you thinking?
Well, here's the thing. Unless there is rules for talking animals in this game, like, do your dogs talk?
It's called a talking dog.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. So the cat could hypothetically talk if there is precedent for animals talking.
There's really only precedent for dogs talking.
There's precedent for specifically Scooby-Doo.
Big asterisks on that. If we might go there, but there's some big asterisks on that.
Okay.
But I guess that would be what we would decide right now. So, is this cat a talking cat, or is it a absolutely normal cat? Either one breaks rules.
But they break different numbers.
They break different rules.
We could try to keep as on brand as the literal cat as possible and make this cat not talk. But having all your characters being able to interact is typically more fun.
Yeah. So I guess here's why I was asking, is because if this cat can talk, it could potentially be like, a private eye or something capable of taking jobs. Because otherwise I feel like we'd end up with something a lot less general purpose and more specialized, which again would make it potentially not fit some modules since we don't know what we're putting it in.
Could just be a curious and meddlesome cat. Meddling kid is a very common archetype, and it's fine for investigators to just have their own personal reasons for being nosy.
I think that would fit very well. I love a good Dennis the Menace in media.
So we have a mischievous, curious cat who may or may not be mundane.
Yeah,
we do have to. I feel like even once we get to the skills, we're gonna have to figure out if this cat can talk.
That's true, because right away we get to interpersonal skills, so we have to know if the cat can talk.
Yeah.
Are we dealing with a talking cat? That does break another rule, but I guess it would just be like an adaptation of the talking dog.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like making a talking cat out of the talking dog rules breaks less rules than making a mundane talking cat.
If we're going for like a minimal rule breaking run here, then that's probably the way to go.
That's what I assume. I assume we're trying to keep the number of rules broken low, right?
Yes.
Yeah, typically.
Then probably this is an adaptation of the talking dog rules.
Yes. This will be an adaptation of the talking dog.
Okay, I'm good to run with that.
All right. That works for me. Would it break fewer rules if the cat doesn't talk, though?
I think that it would break fewer rules if the cat doesn't talk, actually, because there aren't... A totally mundane cat, I think, actually breaks more rules than a talking cat.
That's impressive, but also confusing.
Well, the game assumes that the characters can all talk.
Right. Skills, which assume that characters can communicate with each other.
Okay.
Alright, so I'm just gonna make a note in the broken rules here, adapting talking dog, then.
Yeah. That is like a rule broken in the absolute sense, but by using these rules, we end up with less total rules broken in the long run.
Right.
Yep.
And that also implies that this is a really big cat.
Possibly?
Because talking dogs have 5 of each HP.
That's true.
And that generally implies that they're of a comparable size to either a very large dog or a person.
I don't think this cat can be that big.
We could lower the HP.
Yeah.
There are rules for editing the HP of smaller animals.
Okay.
Sounds like a cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah.
Well, then this character is a talking dog, which is a trait, so we'll talk about that when we get to traits.
Yeah, we'll go there when we get to traits.
We have the skills, I believe, in step 2. So this is the part of the process where you figure out... this is, I guess, the closest thing we have to, a class. We don't have splats of any kind. Eureka is completely open in the way that characters are built. They get to freely assign skills. So the way it works is there's a number of skills sorted into 3 categories: interpersonal, knowledge, and physical skills. The only rule with assigning these is that... Well, I guess there's 2 rules. They have to have a rating between -3 and +3, +3, for each skill. And all of those ratings added together have to equal 0.
I guess actually kind of the closest thing Eureka has to a class is whether the character is a mundane character or one of the various paranormal characters, which that's closest thing to a class, because those paranormal traits, those change a lot about how the character plays. But you could still pretty easily call Eureka a classless game.
Yeah. But yeah, at this stage, you would go through, and usually the way that I would recommend to do it is to look at each skill and think about what the rating would be independently, and then adjust to make them fit 0 at the end. So, a +3 is extremely skilled. That means usually, a doctorate or 10 years of experience in a given skill, or they're just, exceptionally gifted at something. Then a -3 is, total lack of familiarity, total incompetence. A 0 isn't always completely average, but it's just somewhere in between those two. It's often an average result, that's what an average person might have, but it really just depends on the skill. The average person in 2025, knows very little about, chemistry beyond what they vaguely remember from high school.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Arguably, they would know more about technology.
Right. Since it's ubiquitous, exactly.
You would think.
So, the average rating isn't always 0. but it's more 0 is just a rating that lands in between those two extremes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm already seeing a couple places we can definitely throw some negatives in.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, this cat is presumably a cat.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Driving, gone, firearms,
which means that they're
gone.
probably not driving any cars, yeah. So a -3 in driving makes a lot of sense.
So if we have a -3 in driving, do we put that in trait penalty, or is this all just straight
skill rating? At this point, everything we do is going to go in skill rating.
Yes, in the second column.
The columns for traits will apply when we get to traits.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Separate.
So yes, this character will have a -3 in anything that they couldn't reasonably do. This cats aren't shooting guns, they aren't driving, they aren't generally doing paperwork.
Probably not.
Although this cat can talk, so this cat does have the capacity to understand paperwork, but up to you if the cat is literate. That is not an assumption we make.
Probably can't hold a pencil, though, so paperwork...
Paperwork is more about reading.
Yes, paperwork is more a skill for interpreting information than it is for creating it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Oh, okay.
Well, okay.
Maybe only a -1 then.
Okay.
Yeah, that works.
Go to, in the rulebook, the skills section, because you can read about each skill and what exactly it does.
Yeah, that way you'll have it on hand. So, like, the interpersonal skills are where we start. It's not a bad place to start either.
Yeah, going down the line seems like the best way to do it.
Charm and comfort. Well, charm, I think, is relatively straightforward. Comfort might need a little bit of introduction. It's not a common skill that a lot of games have.
Yeah, charm, how charismatic and personable you are. Comfort.
How the character is, not you.
A character is. You're right. Sorry.
Thank you.
Comfort is a measure of how good a character is at de-escalating tense situations and soothing frayed nerves.
I feel like cats are very charming, otherwise we wouldn't keep them around.
Right?
True. I also believe that cats are very comforting.
Yeah.
I feel like it's an extreme, right?
Comfort?
Yeah, because, well, like, a cat can be very comforting, or they can be awful.
Yeah, I was about to mention that, too. They can definitely escalate a situation.
I think this is a situation where it depends on the cat, because we're going to have to, because this cat has a personality, it talks.
This cat is an individual, after all.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
is this particular cat charming?
Now, if we're going with a hard-boiled cat, I want to say that this cat is not very comforting, but maybe could put on some charm.
Okay, so this is like, I'm getting like an alley cat vibe.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could dig it.
That makes sense.
Although, this could be a situation where the cat has a decent rating in charm, whether he likes it or not.
Exactly.
That's true.
Because no matter how hard-boiled he is, he may be adorable to most people.
That makes sense.
That's true as well.
So we could do a +3 in charm, +2 or 3.
Is this cat a male or a female cat?
Good question. They don't always ask us that this early.
Typically, we don't worry about pronouns until, like, the very end. They're just kind of an afterthought.
Unless they ask us to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can decide now, though.
I personally prefer making a character if they have, like, a name and all that other stuff.
Gotcha.
Okay. So we can think of a name that would fit this hard-boiled cat.
I mean, you'll go whatever direction you like. I'm really digging the idea of like a scrappy alley cat who has to survive by their wits.
Mm-hmm. I dig that, too.
1 second. Fantasy Name Generators has a detective names.
Oh.
Okay.
We're
Cat
saved.
should be named after a detective, I think.
I see. So I've got Pam Hammer, Erica Lawyer, Robin Zeal, Helen Smith. I'm sorry, Pam Hammer.
Pam Hammer is really good.
This is my cat, Pam Hammer.
Pam Hammer. I think we gotta go with Pam Hammer, right?
Yeah.
She's a scrappy, hard-boiled alley cat.
Yeah, that's where the hammer comes from.
Scrappy alley cat, hard-boiled detective.
So is she adorable despite herself, is the question.
I would say yes. She keeps up. She knows how to fight, but she's not afraid to, be presentable and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like kind of a +2 to me. Like, she's not amazing and spectacular at it, but she's just naturally gifted.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was thinking, +2.
Just the fact that she's a cat, that softens people up.
Yeah.
Then they hear her talk, and that's when you get the 0 comfort.
Yeah.
Does she have one of those smokers meows?
Yes, absolutely.
I don't know about that. Yeah, no, that fits.
I literally am imagining this cat on, like sitting on a desk, chain smoking, looking over paperwork.
Yeah.
Okay, 0 in comfort.
They give the cat a pipe. They don't actually put tobacco in it or anything, but
It's
the meow
catnip.
still came out like that.
You know, manipulates about lying.
How good would an alley cat be at lying? Because I feel like if you're out there scrapping for food all the time, you have to have some bit of deception to get things from people, right?
I mean, every cat I've owned has lied to me about when I've fed them.
Yes, exactly. +1 to manipulate, maybe?
Yeah, so I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if we've got an alley cat here, this cat knows how to put on the sad wet cat charm.
For sure.
Got the Puss in Boots eyes.
Yeah, despite not being sad or wet.
Okay, next up is Seduce. Seduce does not necessarily represent a character's physical attractiveness, but it is a measure of their ability to make themselves attractive, whether through words, attire, physical appearances, physical features, or anything else of the sort.
Yeah, so I mean, this is an alley cat, right? So she's not spayed.
Interesting take,
I guess.
but yeah. So
I mean, I guess how seductive is she to other cats?
to other cats, I'm sure.
Oh,
it's
to other
very-
cats.
Yeah, the other cats.
Well, of course it would be to other cats, because Seduce specifies that they have to play for the right team. So this is
Yeah, that's true.
people who are
Oh, does
attracted
it?
to cats, which is largely cats.
All right.
Cats and Shane Dawson.
All right. I was still thinking in terms of like the rules were mostly human centric. So
I mean, they are humans. They're written for humans, but the rules as written would imply that a cat would be attracted to characters that are attracted to cats, which would generally be cats.
Let's see. This is kind of a tough one. There's a difference between a cat being attracted to an alley cat, pompous cat being attracted to an alley cat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess. What do I know about cats here?
What's the social hierarchy of a cat?
I feel like
she got the low class charm, I imagine.
I feel like there's like I don't know. I mean, correct me if you think otherwise, but I feel like an alley cat like this is like territorial and spiky,
Mhm.
you know, and not the.
That might be a 0.
Yeah.
I could see it being a 0 for sure. Up next, we have social cues. Let me tell you tell you this for free. I'm not good at these in real life, so even a descriptor, I might still not get this one. But social cues is a measure of how good a character is at reading social situations, but not necessarily acting in them. Okay.
I think a lot of the most iconic investigators that we've ever written have kind of low social cues. Actually.
Yeah. I mean, Sherlock Holmes, let's be real.
No, he has good visual calculus.
That's
We talked
yeah,
about
he's
this.
good visual calculus,
Mhm.
not good social cues.
So what should we put social cues at like a -1, 2?
I feel like it should be a negative. I feel like cats aren't great at reading people. That's my opinion. They might be great at reading other cats,
That's true.
Perhaps.
but how
I
good are they at reading people?
Yeah.
Because this is like an exception to the seduce rules.
Yeah, well, the seduce rules are the ones that have an exception.
Yeah, because these are generally going to be applied to like human characters.
Yeah, these are going to be applied to humans. So how good is she at reading humans?
I would say in general, probably not great.
Yeah, alley cat, not very well
Oh
socialized.
yeah, alley
probably
cat
negative.
too. Not even a house cat.
Yeah, so probably a -2, maybe.
A -2 or even a
Negative
-3,
1 to
I think is
-2.
appropriate.
I like -2.
The example for that is can't read the room. So we know that Pam can't read the room.
Would not be a good secretary.
Threaten.
Like seduce, threaten does not necessarily represent a character's physically imposing form, but is a measure of their ability to make themselves threatening by words or appearance.
Now, based on the other stats that we have chosen, threaten should be a -1, and I believe that would fit.
Well, they don't have to be 0 within their own category. They have to be 0 total.
Oh, total.
So a character can have really good interpersonal skills and compensate with bad knowledge skills or bad physical skills.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought it was within
Yeah,
the
that's
tree.
maybe something we
No,
should like
it's total.
put. Do we already have a note in that says it's not like that? Because a lot of people seem to assume that.
Do they? Okay,
Maybe
well, I mean,
you
I
do,
guess, I
and
guess we
we
should
just-
we should put that in. I'll put a comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you do, and I just didn't read that part because we're kind of, skimming through.
Oh no, I mean we're like learning that just like sometimes we have to explicitly state things that people assume just aren't the case.
Yeah, people come into tabletop RPGs with a lot of assumptions, and that's something that is partially Dungeons and Dragons' fault and partially just something that is unavoidable of the medium, especially because the medium relies on the players, including the game master, to make it work. It doesn't run itself like a video game.
Right, to like interpret and execute it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can see here all investigators have the same set of core skills. The only rule of skill exercitation is the cumulative rating of all of an investigator's skills should add up to 0.
Yeah.
I think it was because when we skimmed, it was in this line, and I didn't realize that
these are skills from various different categories.
From various trees. Yeah.
Yeah, we're probably going to put like an example of a whole list of skills there at some point. I think if you just... Anyway.
Art is unfinished.
Yeah, the art's unfinished.
I think if you just threw this up there and then placed all of them like you have here and then just zeros for everything else,
I think that would be more clear. Thank you for the advice. I've put a note to specify that.
Okay, yeah.
But yes, next up is Threaten, and honestly, I actually feel like a Scrappy Alley-Cat should have Decent Threaten.
Well, Decent Threaten for a cat?
Well, sure, Decent Threaten for a cat, but I mean, do you want to tangle with an angry, hard-bitten alley cat? I don't.
I guess that depends. It depends on the stakes.
Oh, that's true.
Because if I am a person that's just cutting through an alley for a shortcut, and I'm getting attacked and aggressed by an alley cat, yeah, maybe I'll turn around. But if I were a mafia goon who is getting paid to rough up this cat to make her stop sticking her nose in the organized crime business, then I do not think I would be intimidated by a cat at all.
Even a really mean one. Well, that's
even
fair.
A really mean one.
Yeah, that is a totally fair assumption.
So maybe a -1 is appropriate, because that's pretty good for a cat.
At the best, a -1.
I'd be willing to go to a -2 as well.
Put a pin in that one, but a -1 I think is appropriate. That's a very threatening cat, but I could see not wanting to mess with an angry, scrappy alley cat with his claws out,
Oh, absolutely. I've tried to give my cats baths, and I know how much they can latch on or lash out just from that. And they are domesticated, always lived in houses cats. I couldn't imagine trying to do that to an alley cat.
I mean, even if you are ready to scrap, I could see an element of hang on a second, because I mean, Jesus Christ, trying to take my cat to a vet and get her in the carrier, and she's completely tame. Yeah, like you say, it can be a nightmare to even get her grabbed, and I'm coming away with injuries.
Absolutely. I gotta wear, every time I give them a bath, I have to wear a sweatshirt or something, or a coat.
And for a cat knows how to fight, yeah, I think a -1 is appropriate for a scrappy alley cat. That's my opinion.
Yep.
I believe that does put her as more innately intimidating than Yvette Prue.
Well, that's not totally wrong, I don't think.
Then who?
One of the iconic investigators.
It's one of the iconic investigators.
All right.
She's actually mentioned in the little example for the threatened skill.
Oh, is she?
She is, yeah.
She's not that art does not depict her, but she is mentioned in the example.
But in any case.
Oh, I see one of the example ratings you have here is -3, wet kitten.
Yes, indeed. We have next the knowledge skills. Now, I have to imagine that the knowledge skills are an area where Pam might suffer. Chemistry,
Yeah, how would she know any chemistry?
How much does Pam know about chemistry?
If we assume that she can talk, then that means she's capable. She's capable of learning about chemistry, but she probably did not go to school.
Probably not.
This is a Scooby-Doo style cat.
Yep, just the scrappy alley cat.
I love your example for -3.
Mixes ammonia and bleach for an excellent cleaning solution.
Hey, it's how to get those tough stains out.
-2 remembers what H2O stands for.
Now, do we think Pam knows what H2O stands for at all?
I don't think she cares.
Yeah.
This could be either -2 or -3.
I think either is appropriate. It just depends how much she bothers.
I would say as an alley cat, probably does not bother much with chemistry.
Probably not.
So medicine, general medical knowledge and first aid and stuff. Now this would be a useful skill for a scrappy character to have.
True.
I think she knows how to lick her wounds,
She knows how to lick her wounds. So maybe a -2 or a -1.
Yeah.
I think she understands the value of cleaning a wound.
Yeah, that's at least -2 or -1.
Yeah. If she understands the value of cleaning a wound, I would say -1 is maybe appropriate. She knows the real basics of first aid. Also, you may have heard our own cat meowing in the background. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's fine. We do not cut those.
She's a fan of the show.
My gosh.
Nature. Okay, this is like basic Boy Scout stuff. Survival skills, knowledge of the natural world. I feel like this is the kind of thing that an alley cat might actually be fairly, like, decent in.
She probably
I think
couldn't
so,
identify
too.
plants, but she at least knows how to probably, like, follow and catch a mouse.
But she also knows what to avoid, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think so, yeah.
I would say so.
Like, she knows how moldy a piece of food can get before she can not eat it anymore,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
I think this would be a good +2, maybe?
Maybe a +1.
Field?
I don't want to say plus
Yeah.
one.
Because, like, she doesn't have, like, academic knowledge of it, right?
Right.
This
Right.
is all practical.
Because the example for +2 is field biologist,
yeah.
and I don't
Yeah.
think we're there.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Definitely not
Yeah.
field biologist.
Plus 0 as a hiker.
Yeah. I think I'm comfortable putting her on a level with a Boy Scout. She's got a lot more practical experience than a Boy Scout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, lived experiences I feel like are more valuable than taught experiences.
Yeah. She might not know what that animal, but she knows not to eat it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
She also doesn't know what that animal's called, but knows it can eat her.
Exactly. So paperwork. This is the ability to, like, parse written information.
Now we place held this at a -1.
Right. I mean, is
It
she
did
literate?
not
She
did
didn't
not finish
high
high school.
because she's a
She
cat.
definitely didn't do that.
I mean, -3 is illiterate, which she might just literally be.
She didn't go to school. She's a cat.
She learned to talk somehow, right?
Sure,
Uh-huh.
sure. So you think she knows how to read, like, some basic stuff, like read signs and stuff?
I think she understands signs. I think there's a lot she doesn't understand, but, like,
Maybe a -2?
-2 at the best.
yeah.
I mean, that's where I would put, like, Scooby-Doo.
Okay.
Visual calculus.
Technology.
Oh, technology is next.
Wait, isn't redacted next?
Well, yes, but it's later on the character sheet because it looks, I don't know, we may end up putting it up further on the character sheet. Redacted technically
Okay.
is next. So the redacted skill is a skill that, if you don't know what it does, then that's fine. The skill and its uses are a mystery to new players. All you need to know is that it is a real skill that can be called for during an adventure. It's up to you if the investigator would have points in it or wrench it dry for skill ratings.
I have heard the redacted skills described by someone else as a skill that is absolutely useful to the type of person who would put points in a skill that doesn't have a description.
Yes.
Yes.
I think it should be a +3.
Wow.
Okay.
Now, hear me out. 1, I mean, it's got to be useful for something. 2, we need to balance out these negatives somehow.
And she is a cat. I feel like I knowing what the skill does, I shouldn't get
It's
too much
not
away.
inappropriate.
It's not inappropriate, but, like, she is definitely... Alright. Even pretending I don't know what the skill does, she's a cat, and cats will just stick their freaking faces in anything at least once. And this is a skill where putting points into it is like taking that gamble, you know?
This is the
Yeah.
fuck around and find out skill.
Yes.
I mean, if anything, I would say it's almost a measure of, without giving anything away, it's almost a measure of this character's, like, curiosity towards the world, or rather,
Oh,
their rating in it somewhat reflects that.
Yeah.
absolutely a +3. I'd be fine dropping it to a +2 if anybody has any objections.
No, I think a +3 is appropriate.
+3 is fine, I think, for a cat.
Yeah.
Now we are on to technology.
Can this cat use a phone? Is she an iPad baby?
Growing up on the streets, probably not.
No, I think this cat's relationship to technology is watches TV through Windows.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty low rating then. It's also technically a knowledge of complex machinery that is not electronic, which is a bit of an abstraction, but mostly it's about electronics.
That sounds like a -3 then.
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I could justify a -2. This cat has no idea what righty-tighty, lefty-loosey is.
Yeah.
Also can't use a screwdriver.
Yeah.
Those words mean nothing to her.
Okay, so visual calculus, if you've ever played Disco Elysium, will be immediately intuitive, but if you haven't, it's basically cause and effect. Like, the ability to notice small details and extrapolate the cause and effect that led to those details being present. Like, looking at a broken window and figuring out how it was broken open. Or seeing, like, a scuff mark on a table and using, like, one's knowledge of the items that are in that room to figure out, well, how did that scuff get made? Was it rubber? Was it someone kicking their boot on the table? Was it someone setting a drink down? You know, being able to, like, figure out how a detail came to be.
All right.
Largely, this is like a cause and effect based skill. And like a lateral thinking, logical deduction skill. Sherlock Holmes is the guy who does visual calculus.
Uh-huh.
Alright, so visual calculus. Like I said, like Ash said, visual calculus is Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes is actually a great example for that because knowing the little I do about Sherlock Holmes, I can infer exactly what.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking...
She is a detective cat. She must have some ability to try and figure out what happened.
I'm thinking she's got to be like a +2.
Okay. She's like pretty good at it.
Yeah, because when you're living in an alleyway, you know, you need to be on guard. You have to recognize, has somebody came through this area?
Yeah.
Be aware of different sounds and situations. Is there a car coming? Is there a person coming? Is there a threat or, you know, cat in the area?
It's a good point that, like, a solid grasp of cause and effect is kind of a necessary survival skill if you live on the street, because you got to know what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a +2 absolutely fits.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, I wasn't even thinking that far into it. I'm just thinking this is a cat who does this kind of thing.
Sure. Well, also fair.
This is her job.
Exactly.
Athletics is like general physical fitness and athleticism.
She's got to be good at that, right?
Yeah.
She's got to be good at that. I mean, one thing we haven't really addressed is that athletics also kind of ends up playing the part of, like, weight class. It ends up being how, like, big and athletic someone is, or rather it's like shorthand for that, which kind of works between humans.
This is a place where the cat is going to run into friction. The making of a cat's going to run into friction with the rules because
Right.
the athletic skill was made based on human athleticism, whereas a cat is much faster than a human, but also much physically weaker. Whereas the athletics skill for a human is generally both physical strength as well as stamina and speed.
Yeah, because, like, athletics governs stuff like how good someone is at wrestling.
Okay. So a cat would have, relative to a human, it would have the speed, but not the strength or stamina. So maybe a 0 is appropriate in that case.
We can default to 0 because it's like she has a -3 in the strength and a +3 in the speed.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, we'll get there in a second, but the talking dog trait gives a bonus to athletics, too.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, 0 for that.
That's actually how we determined Yvette Prue's seduce skill. Is that she has a +3 in the element of being, like, beautiful, and then a -3 in everything else about it.
So it's a 0.
So it's a 0.
Close combat. I feel like this is high for an alley cat.
This could be decent.
Yes.
Because it does not require strength. It requires understanding of... Then again, okay, this is a trained thing. So I feel like this really... If she hasn't been trained...
Well, it's trained on a human perspective, though, too. And, like, an untrained cat that is just going on instinct is gonna hit effectively more often than an untrained human running on instinct.
I wouldn't let this go above 2. And I would want to go for a +1, personally.
Yeah, +1 seems fair. I think cat being small creature, it still has a good understanding of, like, hold on and don't let go.
Okay, but she's also a talking cat, right? Because she could train.
She's a talking cat. How much theory is there on cat martial arts out there? Because, like, the martial arts that you, as a human, would learn, most of those are hundreds or thousands of years of, like, experimentation and are kind of scientifically evolve from, like, people who are, like, really into it, like, practicing and experimenting with things. And that's why, and I do a lot of martial arts study myself. Martial arts that, like, stopped evolving, like, 500 years ago are generally a lot worse than martial arts that have been evolving the whole time. And I feel like cat martial arts are, like, at 0. I don't think there's ever been cat martial arts theory.
This cat studies MMA.
She couldn't study MMA. There's no MMA for cats.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is all instinct. I want to point out that this comes from Quora discount Yahoo Answers. This person says the most obvious similar fighting style for cats would be the tiger style of kung fu. Now, I don't know much about that.
I feel like instinct is better.
Yeah.
than her studying the tiger style of kung fu.
I don't think she would study the tiger style. I think, it would be all instinct.
I don't want this. I don't want this above a +1.
Yeah.
I think
That's
it should
fair.
be a +1. Yeah. I would find it hard to argue more than that.
Yeah. But I think the basic principles of, like, hold on, don't let go sort of thing, cats understand that. That's their basic hunting MO.
Yeah.
Cats do have a better instinctual understanding of violence than a human that is untrained, but a cat could not, even if a cat wanted to, there would be no theory for them to study and no martial art for them to practice.
I mean, they are essentially like around 10 pounds of like liquid steel and razor blades, but they are only 10 pounds of it.
I do want to also point back to the lived experiences argument I had earlier. I think the +1 works because she's absolutely been in a lot of alley fights.
Yeah, she's been in some street fights.
Yeah, she would be more knowledgeable, barely more knowledgeable than a house cat when it comes to fighting. So I think, again, +1 I think is the max we could even think about putting here, though. Still,
Reflexes. This is like the cat skill.
Yes.
Yeah.
The ability to react quickly and appropriately to unexpected situations which demand immediate action. Almost always this skill is used to avoid sudden danger.
Yes.
Real quick for the audience, going in order, we skipped over driving and firearms because at the very beginning we placed a -3 in both of those.
Sure.
Let's be real, a cat is not doing either of those. Especially not on this show.
Yeah, this is not a setting in which the cat gun has been invented.
Exactly. So, reflexes.
I feel like this is easily a 2 or a 3.
To be pedantic,
Yeah.
for the fun of this experiment, reflexes is not just, like you said, it's not just the ability to react quickly, it's the ability to react appropriately. And
That's true.
we have tens of millions of hours of video footage at our fingertips displaying that cats often react extremely quickly and absolutely inappropriately to sudden danger.
That is true.
I know where you're coming from because my brain immediately thinks of like that video with like 50 cats in one room and there was like a box that fell and like within a second the entire room just descends into chaos.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, okay, counterpoint though is that Pam Hammer is not our good friend Pam Hammer is not a house cat who doesn't have experience with, like, the daily trials and tribulations of sudden danger in the real world. She is a scrappy alley cat who knows what is and isn't dangerous in the city.
Okay.
Also, we have a lot of negatives and we need to balance it to 0 somehow.
Okay.
We
Also
really
true.
do. Hold on, let me go through and do some quick math.
I've actually got my calculator up already.
Oh, you do?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I figured we would need to keep track.
Yeah, somebody. Thank God somebody is, because Joel and I are notoriously sometimes bad at our job.
It's okay. I got a phone calculator on my home screen if it comes to it.
But +3, right? Is that the consensus?
Yeah, we're +3.
Yeah.
Up next is senses. Is a measure of the character's alertness and the acuteness of their 5 senses.
Yeah.
Which we all know, so I'm not going to list them. If you don't know, how are you listening to this podcast?
True. Senses is generally less visual focused. This tends to be like sensitivity of hearing and smell. And it's also often used to like find something when it could be difficult to find something, like detecting.
It's very rarely used for investigation. Senses.
Yes. Very often used to avoid danger as well, but in a less immediate context than reflexes.
Cats typically, well, animals in general, a lot of animals are known for having better secondary senses than humans.
Yes. Like, senses is not, we didn't go over like a lot of the core rules, but the way that perception in Eureka works is that information is just given.
Yes.
A senses roll is almost never used for investigation.
Investigators see what they see.
They see what they see and they hear what they hear. If there's a noise, they hear it. If there's something that like they would be able to see from where they're standing, they see it.
You're right.
Mm-hmm.
There's no need to roll to perceive. They just see what they're seeing. They may need to like open containers and look under couches, but they can see what they see.
So a lot like Time Watch, which I think is a Gumshoe game.
Yeah, Gumshoe is also a lot like this.
Gumshoe shares a lot of principles on how to deal with the perception problem with Eureka.
Yeah.
Just doesn't go far enough in our opinion.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
There may be some instances where, like, if a character is going to listen at a door for something very faint, that would count as investigation and may use senses.
Right. But very often this is being used to avoid danger or to, like, detect a problem.
This is detecting whether there's a guy hiding behind the door, rather than being used to see if they can see the bloodstain on the carpet at all.
That makes sense.
So this is like, let me listen for heavy breathing beyond...
Yeah.
But this is another thing where I think that cats are quite good at this, although...
Yes.
This one doesn't necessarily include the ability to react appropriately. This is just the ability to detect it at all. And as we know, cats have very good senses.
I think this would be a +2 or +3 because, as you said, it's often it doesn't have much to do with eyesight, and cats have worse eyesight than humans, but they have more sensitive hearing and smell.
Yep.
They're going to be able to detect someone's there.
Ash, you said you got a calculator out. Do you know what the total is right now?
Running total is at a -5 right now.
I think that works out perfectly because I was +2, +3 for these last two skills.
There's 3 more skills because you forgot wealth.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah.
But that's okay. We can always just go back and distribute a few stray... We can always go distribute a few straggler skill points. Not a big deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, I can't imagine this cat is wealthy at all. So
No.
Right.
So what do we think? Is +2 for senses?
+2
I think +2 or +3 is appropriate.
Let's do +2 for now, and then, like you said, if we want to balance it out.
Yeah. Stealth is sneakiness.
Stealth is definitely...
It turns out the Metal Gear Solid
Yeah.
info dump was relevant.
I was about to say, the info wasn't useless at the beginning.
Because +4 rating for stealth.
Who, as we all know, is the DNA template for Solid Snake.
Yes, we all knew that, Joel.
But
Every
he's
single
even
one.
better at stealth than Solid Snake, which we also all already knew.
Yes, because we've all played the entire Metal Gear series, including Metal Gear Solid 5, and we're not stuck on Metal Gear Solid 2 at the moment.
Does it count if I watch somebody else play Metal Gear Solid 5?
So is Pam Hammer as good at stealth as a Special Forces agent?
That's such a great question.
She's a hunter, right?
Yeah, a hunter for sure, I think.
That's something that I feel like we should go back over because I had this discussion with, like, Faraday, one of our friends.
A member of our book club server. Continue.
Yeah. About how, like, special forces is something that doesn't actually exist.
That's true as well.
But how do you know?
Special forces are usually just regular soldiers who shoot people and then don't tell anyone about it, rather than being elite, super, mega, ultra soldiers.
I could go full conspiracy theory and just say, but what they're not telling you about this. No, I'm kidding.
Sure, but I and Eureka are both skeptical of the actual competence of law enforcement officials or of military officials, frankly.
Yeah.
I would like to go on record and say I am also skeptical of their abilities.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think stealth for a cat like this, I think a +2 is totally appropriate. I don't think a +3 is completely out of the question.
I think hunter at least makes sense.
Yeah.
She absolutely had to hunt for food at some point.
Being a hard-boiled stray alley cat, yeah. Sorry, scrappy alley cat, hard-boiled detective.
Right. Imagine a scrappy detective, though. Think about that.
Well...
They get their information by beating people up a little bit. No, hold on. That's actually just Batman.
That's what I was about to say. Actually, I was thinking Daredevil at first, but then as you kept talking, I was going Batman.
I think both work. Except Daredevil he'll get the information and then still beat the shit out of you. he doesn't care.
Yeah.
Alright, I'll put a +2 here.
We might have to redistribute some stuff, but that's fine.
That's how it usually works out.
Although I will say, usually you're not as off as you tend to expect you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not think that we were super even, but right now we're at -1 then, right?
That's correct. Yep, -1. And then I assume that's going to get higher with the stealth rating. Or the wealth rating, rather.
Yeah.
The wealth rating, yeah.
Wealth is not fit into any category. Why it's kind of off by itself there.
Is wealth on... Oh, yep, here it is. It's down a little bit. Dirt poor, lower class again. Dirt poor for sure.
Yeah, she's a scrappy alley cat. I think that dirt poor applies. I would take this opportunity to note that if she were a pet, if she were owned by someone, then wealth would at least partially reflect the means of the person she was owned by.
Yeah, so maybe a -2 then.
But a -3 I think is completely appropriate for her, which leaves you at a total at -4 right now. So she needs to distribute 4 more points.
Yeah. No, we need to distribute 4 more points because we're the ones making the character.
That's true.
I think we absolutely could bump up the senses and stealth to +3 then, if y'all are okay
Yeah,
with
a
that.
piece. Yeah, we've got the points.
So that leaves 2 more points. I think 1 more in manipulate would not go amiss.
I think
That
so
makes
too,
sense.
yeah.
Let's just look at the things we're good at and see if it makes sense to...
She's
Charm? Maybe? A little more charming?
Charm.
A charm of +3 is quite charming.
Okay,
Yes.
that's too much.
I would say, comfort is not a bad one if she is surprisingly good at comforting someone. If she cares.
Well, we could reduce. We could counterbalance some of these negatives, like
That's true.
paperwork, maybe. Although she never went to school, so never mind.
Social cues could be at a -1.
Social cues could go up to +1 or to -1,
Yeah, to -1.
Oh, yeah, that works too.
There's a lot of places to add a point in.
or she could have a +1 in seduce if she's a more attractive cat.
Sure,
To cats.
whatever. Lots of options.
I think Seduce makes sense at 0 because she can be off-putting.
Sure.
Mhm.
But maybe a -1 to social cues
Yeah, maybe she's decent at reading people.
I could get down with that.
as a survival skill, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say, I had to interact with people in some capacity to get food throughout the years.
She knows how to recognize who's going to kick her.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, she can talk.
Also,
Also she could talk.
So this is not a bad spread at all. And I think that you'll notice that just by assigning skills, you have learned a lot about who Pam Hammer is.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Which is the big thing we want to encourage.
Yeah, I feel like most systems that allow you to learn through assigning skills are very good systems.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things to do during character creation, because one of the problems I have with D&D character creation is a lot of it revolves around you completely making a backstory or completely building a character first and then using your stats as a way to enhance it, rather than using your stats as a way to build on your character.
Using the character stats.
Yeah. So that's one of the major downsides I have with the D&D system and other systems like it.
Well, I think a big part of that for D&D is that people are playing it wrong because they really want to do Critical Role instead of doing what D&D is actually really good for. There's a bunch of assholes in a dungeon who might die.
I don't disagree, but we cannot afford to get
Yeah.
sidetracked.
All right.
Yeah, no, we could talk about that for hours. That's a whole other podcast. But yeah.
So those skills add to 0, right?
Those skills do add to 0, yep.
Okay. Then we're done with skills.
Yep.
Hey, Avalon, you know what it is in 4 days?
In 4 days? 4 days after this episode comes out, or 4 days as of recording?
After the episode comes out.
No, I don't know. Either way, I don't know why I asked the clarifying question. I don't know. I have no idea.
It's April 20th in 4 days.
Oh my gosh.
It's the funny number day.
The funny number day. We have April 20th and June 9th. Only 2 days of the year you can be funny. Well,
Yeah, every other day you gotta leave it up to the professionals.
yeah, all those stand-up comics, gatekeeping comedy.
Yeah,
When will it be our turn, you know?
right here, right now. We're gonna be funny this whole middle tro, because we're the professionals now.
We're the professionals of comedy?
Well, maybe not, but we're professional cat creators. No, we're professional fictional cat creators. Let's say that.
Yeah. And honestly, I think we're at the top of our field. Not to toot my own horn, but I don't think anybody's out there doing it like us. You know what I mean?
I don't think anyone else is out there doing it.
Exactly. So no, we're at the top. Yes, we made it.
We've made it.
And by it, I mean this show that you're listening to. And if you want to know more about this show, you can go to our website at badgertrove.com/literalcatpod. What a segue.
Hey, brought it home. That's all that matters. Anyway, yeah, check out our website. Then follow us on social media at Literal Cat Pod. It's going to be Literal Cat Pod basically anywhere you go. We have a TikTok that's Literal Cat Podcast, but I haven't posted to it in forever.
That's just how it goes. TikTok is going to get banned again anyways in the US, so what's the point?
That's what they keep saying.
That's what they tell me. But yes, we are on a lot of different social media sites, so no need to focus on just one. Follow us everywhere, you know?
Yeah. YouTube, Twitter, TikTok. I guess, no, not those last two. We don't do Twitter anymore. The account still exists. It's just locked down. Probably never to be reopened.
But you can find us on Tumblr, Blue Sky.
Yeah. Those are ones that we actually update. I mean, we update the YouTube too, but like to post archives of the podcast episodes as videos.
Yeah.
And I don't even do that directly. I've got a process to automate it for me. Anyway, aside from following us on socials and all that, once you have your information, once you've listened to an episode, you might feel compelled to rate and review. I would heavily encourage you to follow that instinct. It is literally the best way for you to help us reach new audience members, aside from maybe telling your friends.
Yeah.
But unless you have a lot of friends, the algorithm is going to do a better job faster. No offense.
And that's the world we live in. All this technology. Yeah, no offense to you, dear listener. Thank you for spreading the word. But if you want our reaches to go farther and wider, you'll give us a good rating and review, you know?
Yep. We gotta go even further beyond plus ultra and all that.
Yeah. Love the guy that says that.
Yeah.
Almighty. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that is from My Hero Academia, isn't it?
Wait, did you say it and you didn't know what it was from?
I forgot.
But yeah, yeah, plus ultra or whatever he says. Go smash the rate and review button like Deku smashes Detroit.
Yeah, but don't break all your bones doing it.
Writing a rating and review shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah, you also don't actually have to write a review. You can just leave the rating if that's easier.
Yeah.
It has the same effect, basically, as long as you leave us a good review.
Yes, and we can 99.9% guarantee that you will not break all of your bones doing so.
Unless you press that button really hard, which we heavily encourage you not to do.
Or if you're looking down to write your review as you're, like, crossing a road or something.
Yeah, I guess you could break all your bones if you were doing it while walking into a manhole.
Yep.
So try to avoid those possibilities, and you'll be just fine. Do it from the safety of your own living room couch, maybe. I don't know. If you don't have a couch, do it from your chair. If you don't have a chair, do it from whatever the heck you sleep on.
All right. I think...
Base is covered.
Yeah, base is covered. Is there anything else we want to mention real quick?
When was the last time we told people to email us at literalcatpod@gmail.com?
I don't know, but that is a good idea. Hey, everybody, if you want to email us game suggestions / ideas, cat creation ideas, challenges, or if you just want to get in touch to guest on the show or anything, all of that can be done through our email. Like Joel said, literalcatpod@gmail.com. You can shoot us a message there, get in touch. Yeah, give us some ideas. Oh, and send pictures of your cats, and we might turn them into a cat on the show.
Or, if you ask us not to, we promise we won't. We still want to see pictures of your cats.
Yes.
Please. It's been so long since we asked. I'm getting cat starved.
Yeah, it would be great. We know y'all, some of y'all out there have cats that you have not sent us pictures of. And we know you be taking pictures of your cats.
Yeah, I've seen Avalon's camera reel. I know how many cat pictures are on it.
Yeah.
I know yours looks the same. Just send us one.
One, maybe two, you know?
Or 3.
Yeah.
Send us the whole reel if you're really feeling generous.
Yeah. Send us at least 3 headshots of each of your cats.
Yeah.
Because I know most of you have more than one.
I want that front profile, side profile, and 3/4 profile for absolutely no particular reason of all of your cats.
What are you gonna turn them into 3D models or something?
For no particular reason. But I think I was very clear on that part.
No, you were. You're right. My bad. I think that's it for the show. We don't have a lot of news updates this episode.
Yeah, we already gave you the big news update last time, the Action Fiction Autumn one. Hey, I said it without a TTS voice this time.
Oh, yeah, that's so great. Yeah, Action Fiction Autumn is the next seasonal event that's going to be coming up, so get ready.
That would be a prime reason to email us to ask to be a guest on the show, actually, because we need some guests to do Action Fiction Autumn. We would have liked them for Wild West Winter. We kind of had to make do without.
Yeah, but, stuff happens. So, if you are an action fiction or autumn nerd, email us.
Yeah, what they said. Anyway, Avalon, where should people follow you?
You can follow me on Blue Sky, Twitter, or Twitch at Avalon Alchemist. Capital A, capital A. Though I don't know if caps matters on most social medias nowadays.
They usually don't.
Yeah. Joel, where can people find you on the internet?
They can't. I don't exist online anymore.
Oh?
You're gonna have to follow my sludge tentacle avatar, O.M.A.M-TTRPGs instead.
Oh, right. Joel has ascended from his human form.
Yeah, I have become sludge and tentacle instead.
Peak human evolution.
This doesn't sound like a big upgrade, I'm realizing as I say it out loud.
Well, you can do so much more as sludge and tentacles than you can do with a human body. Definitely won't break your bones.
Yeah, true. I have not broken a bone once since ascending, I guess. Not that I ever broke a bone before, now that I think about it. But yeah, follow me on Blue Sky at O.M.A.M-TTRPGs and Twitch at O.M.A.M-TTRPGs.
Alright, if that's all you got, I think we are done mid-rolling.
Yeah, let's mid-roll you back into the episode now.
Yep, there you go. Just give him a little push. Help me out here, Joel. Alright, good job.
Man, you're such a heavy viewer. I'm so sorry, that was rude.
Joel, you can't make comments like that. Get back to the episode. I gotta discuss Joel's etiquette over here.
So the next step is traits. So right off the bat, so traits are little unique things that give extra bonuses and extra changes to the way that a character interacts with the world around them. Right away, one of the traits that she has is going to be a variation on the talking dog trait.
Yes.
Which I guess will be called talking cat.
Yes.
It will work the exact same way, however.
Yeah, so we probably typically, her first trait should be talking dog.
Right. Because this is going to inform a lot of other things. Now, this trait is not found in the normal trait list. This is all the way in the back of the book.
Okay.
With the paranormal traits.
Even though talking dogs aren't paranormal.
Right.
But we'll explain that when we get there.
They aren't paranormal. So, okay. Let's start from the top. There are a lot of different things that an investigator in Eureka can be other than a normal mundane human. They could be a vampire, or a Hollywood wolfman, or even a gorgon, or like a talking doll. They can be paranormal in many ways. The talking dog is unique. Almost all of these other ones are going to be a secret to other players. This is a concept that is normal in Eureka. The other players do not necessarily know everything about your character, because we try to keep player-facing information and character information relatively in line with each other to create a certain effect. The talking dog trait is unique. Everyone has to agree that the talking dog trait is allowed in order for an investigator to be a talking dog, because it's a bit of a departure from the usual tone.
And the talking dog, if there is a talking dog investigator, then talking dogs are considered normal and not paranormal.
Okay.
Explicitly, no one will ever comment that it's weird for this dog, or cat in this case, to talk.
Right. Talking dogs, yeah, so most dogs will still not talk.
Yes.
This is still a unique dog for talking, but everyone will take it in stride and not...
Everyone is just fine with this.
...react in surprise about a talking dog.
Yeah. Everyone is fine with this.
Makes sense.
No one is surprised by this. It's just a thing. But the talking dog trait does give some statistical changes to the character. So this character has a +4 base bonus to senses rolls involving hearing and smell. So you can note that down in trait base next to senses. And maybe put an asterisk next to it just so that you know it only applies situationally.
Yeah.
They also have a +4 base bonus to stealth, which can go in the trait base.
Nice.
And if you want to go down to the second page, there is a section to write out more on traits. So if you want to write down talking cat, and then those items. +4 base to senses, rolls on hearing and smell, +4 bonus to stealth.
If you go to page 16, you can also just copy and paste that in place if you want to.
That's true. Yeah, I can paste it in the Discord if you like.
That'd be nice too, yeah.
But yeah, if you wanna take all that and put it there, you can. I will just go ahead and go down. I will just quickly summarize the differences. They get +4 acceleration, which means they're faster when they're being chased or when they are chasing someone. They get a Jaws attack, which lets them bite someone, which grabs them and deals damage. They can use explicitly. They can use tools and weapons either with their mouth or their paws, but they take a penalty if the tool or weapon would ordinarily require human hands to operate.
So we can only really use the katana then.
Or she can.
Yes.
She can only use the katana.
Yeah, it would make more sense. We, the players, would not use a katana. She, Pam Hammer, would.
There's also a -1 penalty to all interpersonal rolls besides social cues because she is more difficult to understand.
To all interpersonal skills?
Yep, that is a penalty, so that goes in the first box.
Penalty, right.
That smoker's meow.
That's right.
Smokers, meow.
Except for social cues. Social cues remains unaffected.
Gotcha.
All right. So that's all you need to do on the sheet.
These do not affect the net skill rating.
Correct.
Gotcha. So base skill rating has to be 0, but anything added through traits and stuff like that, additive or subtractive, right?
That's
Correct.
right. That's all separate.
Neat.
But then there are other mundane traits to pick from. So generally,
Yes.
Eureka investigators have between 3 and 6 traits. 3 is default. However, they can add more traits. It just means that it requires more investigation points to get a Eureka. We haven't talked about that. In extreme brief, a Eureka point is a player-facing resource which allows the investigator to get past or to overcome and reverse investigative rolls that they failed, or to just make combat rolls more effective or other non-investigative rolls more effective and more likely to succeed.
They could also do a few other things dependent on traits. Some traits unlock new abilities that they can be spent on.
The system is named after it. As you might imagine, it's a fairly important.
Yes.
It's a fairly important mechanic.
Yeah.
So if she has more than 3 total traits, then she will get less Eureka points over the course of the game.
Basically, yes.
So we should probably only pick one more for her.
2 more. They have to have 3. Talking dog is 1
They have
trait.
a minimum 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry. 2 more.
So 2 more traits. Let's see. A lot of good traits here. A lot of them are based off of fictional investigators.
Yeah, immediately the ascot caught my attention.
You did say that she's hard-boiled. I feel like she's got to have the hard-boiled trait.
Yeah.
Oh, you do have a hard-boiled trait? That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously we gotta take that one.
Yeah.
Would she be a femme fatale?
I would think she would have a higher seduce if she were.
She would need higher
yeah.
seduce. Or she could be
Fair
a femme
point.
fatale with bad seduce.
That's true.
Just a really bad femme fatale.
Less femme, more fatale.
Hard-boiled gives additional investigation points when she's injured,
Okay.
which makes her scrappy.
Yeah. Scrappy alley cat, hard-boiled detective, Pam Hammer.
That's right. Let me think here, because hard-boiled is a great choice for her. Oh no, it doesn't get her extra investigation points. It makes her really good at investigative roles when she's injured. What else would be good for a scrappy alley cat?
Night owl, maybe?
Death Wish. Night Owl's not a bad one. Night Owl means that they take less composure damage from staying up late and pulling all-nighters. Composure is a resource which basically simulates, it's kind of like Sanity in Call of Cthulhu, but much more
Better.
well, yeah, much more short-term and mundane. It basically is like, how well is this character able to keep their nerves and keep steady?
I usually explain it to people as emotional HP.
It's like emotional HP. Because anyone can end up just breaking down and not being able to handle something.
I feel like Night Owl might be kind of a must for a cat.
Maybe.
If we want her to better circumvent the rules that enforce a normal human sleep cycle, which Eureka has.
Well, it doesn't even, actually, because if someone is using ticks, she just has to sleep for a total of 5 ticks. She could sleep for 1 tick,
That's
totally
true.
interspersed around. She could do cat naps.
That's true.
Cats do take cat naps.
Well, never mind then. All right, what other traits we got?
Ask questions later, which gives investigation points from non-investigative roles. So that means that she would get investigation points from combat instead of getting them from snooping.
Ooh, that's interesting. I also see there's one called Ninja. Ninja +2 contextual bonus to stealth and to any attack made from behind a target.
That's not a bad one if she's all about the stealth attacks.
Yeah, that one is very fitting for a literal cat. We tend to lean towards skills that just straight up match cat stuff.
That's fair. What else would be a good one that is just straight up like a cat skill? Yeah, I feel like those are some good choices. Unpredictable is maybe an option.
What about real capybara hours?
I don't think that this ragged alley cat is a particularly calm, reassuring presence.
Yeah, we've already established they're not good at de-escalation.
I think that if anything, Pam Hammer has Wicked.
Sorry, let me get down to the W's.
Yeah.
Unpredictable. All rolls for this character must be made with a 1d12 instead of the usual 2d6. Wicked. This character gains +1 contextual bonus to any roll made to hurt or cause harm to another character. However, the casual outlook on violence is unnerving. That sounds fitting.
It does sound kind of fitting.
It means that if she's in a scene, all other investigators have a harder time keeping their cool.
Yeah. She harms the composure of other characters.
They get a penalty to composure rolls if they are in the same room with Pam Hammer.
Yeah. And composure rolls are rolls essentially to resist composure loss from stressful or dangerous situations.
Yeah, it's hard to remain calm under pressure knowing that a cat just might randomly bite you for no reason.
Is Pam Hammer the type to randomly bite someone for no reason?
And then she won't even explain it afterwards, even though she can talk to you.
That is a good question. Is she the type? That doesn't seem like something we've established.
Yeah, I mean that's a question about like her personality.
Just gotta reestablish who's boss every once in a while, you know?
Yeah. Okay, so she's like proactively violent.
I could see that too, though, being an alley cat, you know.
Sure.
It'd be hard to ask questions first when confronted with really anyone.
Well, maybe Wicked then.
Is there another one anybody likes better?
Not particularly.
The only other one was like ask questions later, and I think Night Owl. It just flips the way that investigative and non-investigative roles work. So normally investigative roles, which are like looking at clues and trying to gather information from them, is the way that Eureka points are gained.
With any skill. There's not an investigate skill.
That's right. But this trait reverses that dynamic so that roles that are not made to directly gain information are the ones that like get the investigators like mind going and make them think about things. It's great for the kind of person who is like, I don't care what the reasons are, it's time to kick down the door and like start gunning people down.
Tends to make them not a very good investigator.
It tends to make them not a great investigator, but this is here to accommodate for like honestly, it's kind of here to accommodate for the hard-boiled noir types who don't actually do much investigating.
It's way more because typically in the actual noir movies, they do plenty of investigating and then they themselves get hurt. What this is emulating is the like 1980s cop who like gets suspended and taken off the case and then takes it into his own hands.
Yeah. Well, let me rephrase. Not actual noir, Sin City.
Okay.
I understand. I don't know. I think Unpredictable, Wicked, one of those two would be better probably than Ask Questions Later.
I mean, she is a snoop after all.
Yeah. Everything else we've established would suggest that Pam is very good at stealth.
That's true.
Could have both Unpredictable and Wicked, but it would extend her investigation point requirements.
True.
I think we should only take one.
Okay.
Let's not make this cat's life any harder than it has to be.
Well, the traits are generally beneficial, which is why they're balanced like that, by extending the bar.
Although both of the ones that you're considering are a little bit of a gray area in that respect.
Yeah.
I honestly think I like Wicked better than Unpredictable.
Wicked it is. She is a violent cat.
Bit of a biter.
Okay. Step 4 is investigators with disabilities. So this is an optional step, and this is where we might use the like chalk drawing on the character sheet.
All right.
So this is an optional bit here, but investigators may have disabilities, and this is explicitly not a flaw, like in the sense of a flaw system that other RPGs have, where like it's counterbalanced by some statistical bonus or some like set of points to be applied towards like advantages.
Mm-hmm.
That is common, and we don't necessarily have a problem with that. But investigators with disabilities are explicitly disabled. They have a harder time.
They are worse at things. They have less
They're
ability.
worse at things. Yeah.
They are disabled.
Now, we think that this is good, adds more to the world. To the opportunity to enrich the world of Eureka with investigators from more walks of life, and the opportunity to prove that being able-bodied is not a prerequisite to solving mysteries, even if it really is a disability.
It also, in my opinion, kind of makes more sense if you're going for a more mundane type of investigation, even if there is paranatural elements to it.
I agree. And now, here's something that's a little bit secret. We're not, actively stating this, but there actually is kind of a mechanical advantage to playing a disabled investigator, which is that Eureka adventures are extremely invested in, being very detailed about the world. And disabled investigators will have a different perspective on the world that is going to cause them to say and do things that fully abled investigators won't, which will add more information to the pool to be considered.
Interesting.
So that is kind of like a hidden thing that we don't directly talk about in the book, but it's true.
It's not a rule, it's just sort of a result.
Yes. So the thing here at this point is to consider, does Pam Hammer have, battle scars? Does she have, is she missing an eye? Is she, did she get, a tendon cut in one of her many street fights?
I think, yes, she would have some form of disability from living on the
I could see her
streets.
missing an eye. I feel like this is a cat with, a scarred up eye.
That feels super right for Pam.
Yeah.
So in that case, go down to the chalk outline on, I believe, the 4th page of the character sheet. And right where the bar is pointing at, the eyes, I don't know which one that's supposed to be. It's one of those two that's pointing into the interior of the face.
Yeah.
So this isn't left and right eye, one of them is eyes, one of them is...
No, yeah, one of them is, I think, eyes, one of them is something else.
I'm going to assume it's this one.
Okay.
It's not actually important which one it is, as long as you know which one it's supposed to be.
Right, as long as it's noted. So this is going to be missing one eye, or you could just say eye, even, because this is a grievous wound to one eye.
Yes, and grievous wound is just, you can see there, it's what permanent or long-lasting damage to the body is called.
This is also the system that is used when an investigator gets, either a temporary wound in that they get a real nasty shiner that closes their eye up, or a permanent wound in that, they get their eye cut out. But this is -1 close combat.
This would be...
You can stick it in the traits.
The trait penalty, yeah. -1 close combat, driving, firearms, senses, and stealth.
Stealth, really?
Yeah. Well, it's harder to assess
Oh, yeah.
what's around you if you don't have an eye, which makes stealth harder.
Fair enough.
But yes, I mean, she's still plenty good at those things, of course. But yes, that is, she has a grievous wound in the eye. That does not provide her any bonuses. That is just a thing she has to deal with. Next step is to fill out Tears of Fear. And we're getting close to the end here.
Nice.
Yeah. Tears for Fears.
Yeah. Somebody got it.
Everybody wants to rule the world. So fill out the Tears of Fear. Tears of Fear are essentially telling us what an investigator finds frightening.
Or just generally stressful.
Yeah, or generally stressful. This is going to vary from investigator to investigator and ensure that they don't all react exactly the same way to every scenario. I mean, if you're familiar with Call of Cthulhu, every situation is exactly as scary to every investigator in that game. That's not the case in Eureka.
Yeah. So these are things that we mentioned a composure roll earlier.
Uh-huh.
When threatened by something that would affect their composure, such as being threatened, a composure roll would be made, which is their roll to resist loss of composure from this threat or danger or stressful situation. And there's a variety of different capital F fears that are placed on this little chart to affect their modifier for that composure roll.
Let's just do the mandatory fears, and this is determining just how Pam feels about those mandatory fears.
I feel like vacuum cleaner, and we should fill in a few optional ones.
Okay, maybe a few.
They're like cats.
Let's start with the mandatories.
I immediately thought horrific water.
Sure. Yeah. Hates getting wet.
Okay.
But let's start with the mandatory ones. So blood and gore.
Blood and gore.
How does Pam feel about blood and gore? That's got to be something she's used to.
I feel like she does not worry that much about blood and gore.
She does not care.
Yeah.
So that would be, generally higher on the Tears of Fear is she doesn't care about it as much. Lower on the Tears of Fear, like horrific, is something that really deeply affects her. So if she doesn't care about blood and gore, I would say a +2 or a +3.
Okay.
If she's used to seeing it every day, if she live hunts and mauls her own prey, That's probably a 3. That's just a fact of her daily life, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, corpses that she didn't create, I think that would be cause for alarm. She would know that means that there's trouble, right?
Right. I mean, this is generally different. This is like encountering, I mean, like, again, investigators are assumed to be humans, so corpse is usually going to be a human body. It might be like a dead cow in the middle of a field.
It could be an animal body.
It could be an animal body, which is a comforting factor.
That would that would affect the modifier if it's not a human body. Although I feel like she would probably be affected the same way as a human body with a cat body.
Right.
Right.
Like that would be the difference for her, right? Pam would be more affected by a dead cat.
But I feel like she'd also be affected by a dead human.
I mean, yeah, I don't disagree.
Yeah.
She's a talking cat, right?
Yeah.
-1?
You put -1.
Yeah, I think it's unnerving to frightening. Like, this is cause for alarm.
This is a problem, sure. So, death. Witnessing or grappling with the end of a life. Again, this is the same rules as corpses. While it doesn't apply to... So, corpse would be rolled for, like, a dead body. Death would be rolled for, like, being at a funeral or for seeing a comrade go down or even like, killing someone.
Yeah, seeing an enemy go down is also cause this. It probably would not affect her for, like, mice that she eats.
Yeah, no, something she hunts.
But if she were to see the death of a cat or human or kill a cat or human, this is when it would affect her.
Right. Like, the death of people that are seen as, like, agents. You know, humans don't have to make death composure rolls when they eat a hamburger.
Right.
We could put that in the same tier as corpse, then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems about fair.
A lot of these will share tiers.
Mm-hmm. And there's no requirement that all of these tiers need to be filled out. all of the mandatory ones need to be set at a tier.
Okay.
Fist fight. So this is like physical assault by fists, knees, teeth, claws, unarmed strikes, which, I mean, like, it's easy to minimize that, but that's like a pretty terrifying thing.
Yeah.
It is also granted a reality of her day-to-day life, which we would say, like, it's something they deal with all the time. There's kind of 2 reactions. They might be desensitized to it, or they might know more acutely than anyone how dangerous it is.
That's true. I feel like this one could fall at a flat 0.
Sure.
Okay, yeah.
It's a stressful scenario, but not worth freaking out over.
She's used to getting into fights, fighting for food and stuff, but I'm sure she's been on the receiving end of a child's foot.
Sure. That's like a steel her nerves and get ready to scrap kind of a tier.
Yeah.
Gun. So this is like being threatened by firearms or being shot at. I guess the question is how much experience does she even have with guns?
Or being shot.
Or being shot, yes.
She knows what a gun is.
She is a talking dog. Or a talking cat.
Yeah, I feel like she would have to know what a gun is, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, loud noises for cats are not
True.
typically great. Even if she didn't know what a gun was, I think the first time she would hear one go off would be incredibly distressing for her.
Probably be fairly low on tiers, yeah.
Yeah.
2, 3.
2 or 3.
I think so.
Kind of want to put it in 3, just because I feel like it adds some flavor for...
Sure. She's not a fan of guns. So here's an interesting one. Magic. How does she feel about paranormal phenomena?
What she believes to be paranormal phenomena.
Yeah. Something she doesn't understand.
That could be more things than humans would
Yes,
consider.
Yeah. I mean, she could think cars are magic, for all we know.
She could.
Yeah. Although, the thing is, alright, so the thing to clarify here is that even if somebody doesn't know how something works, if they consider it to be a normal part of life, it would not fall into this category.
Right.
Okay.
This is something that's obviously, like, something
This is something
not...
that shifts their world, their understanding of the world.
Right.
All right.
A magic roll is generally going to, like, philosophically shake a character.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Cat knows what car is.
Cat has seen car.
Yeah, that would probably be a -3 horrific for
Wait, seeing the movie Cars or the magic?
the cat would not. I'm joking, but
This is the thing.
This is a tough one to
that,
place.
Our goal with character creation is to, like, really force you to consider who your character is.
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of trying to grapple with that. This is definitely a rough one to place. Like, I don't know, because I'm trying to think of examples in my life of, like, a shaken worldview. And honestly, I don't have that many that like have affected me terribly.
Would this cat's worldview be more shaken by a fairy showing up or a walrus?
Well, not a bad question, but
yeah,
I think one of the easiest ones to think about is like, if you were visiting your friend and like they suddenly like, maybe they were going to walk across the street and about to get hit by a car, and they just, instead of running out of the way, they flew. They just literally like jumped up in the air and floated in the air. How would you react to that? And I think that's the thing to ask.
I see. Okay. Now I would think that's sick as hell, but
yeah,
but it would be a little bit like, oh,
yeah, it'd be very, very shocking.
How shocking would it be? I think is the question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think that's got to be a -1 or 2 because people don't do that, right?
Yeah, I was thinking of a -2 because like if I saw that, like if my buddy Joel over here started flying out of the way of cars, I'd be like, I can't believe you can do this, and I can't believe you've kept this from me this whole time. We've known each other. So I think we could put magic in a -2.
Okay, so melee weapon: knives, blades, clubs, brass knuckles.
So have you seen that photo of a cat who has a knife pointed at it, and it's just got this really smug look on its face?
I have.
Yeah.
I feel like that's Pam.
Well, if that's Pam, so melee weapon is kind of like the same scenario as fistfights, except worse and more dangerous.
True. There are rare characters who don't have it in that exact order, where fistfights are, like, more unnerving to them for whatever reason, but usually it goes fistfight, melee weapon, gun.
Yeah. So I don't think that melee weapon, unless she's very weird about it, melee weapon should not be less scary than fists. It could be the same amount of scary.
Generally, the reason for that would be, like, a character has specific trauma or, like, specific fears around being, like, beaten would generally be the reason for that. Like, if someone was, like, physically beaten with fists and, like, has a specific fear around that, they might find, like, physical assault by fists to be more terrifying than a knife. But usually it goes fist fight, melee weapon, gun.
I think we could argue that for Pam, though, because most people disciplining or messing with cats don't do it with weapons. You discipline a cat, you bop it on its nose or something.
I think what that would imply is that Pam is more afraid of pain than death.
Yes. I think that could easily be implied because she has definitely gotten into fights and lived to tell the tale, but she has probably not been confronted with weapons that often. Now, I don't think it'd be like high on the list. I think at most it'd be a +1.
Okay. I'm not going to fight a 0 or a +1, especially if it's just like she doesn't really have that much experience with weapons. Sometimes a fear is higher on the list simply because of naivete.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm coming from with this. Is she's not afraid because she knows she can handle it. She's not afraid because she doesn't really know. She doesn't have the experience.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking too. She is very familiar with the intimate danger of a scrap, right? Uh-huh. And she is aware of the danger of a gun because that can be explained to her. And also it's really, really loud.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But a sword, well, no one's ever come after her with a sword. She's not even like...
So it's just like a theoretical possibility for her.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. So like she's scared of it in theory, but she doesn't know how scared she ought to be.
Exactly. So I feel like a 0 or a 1 makes sense for that, right?
Sure, yeah, like I wouldn't fight that.
I think we could probably put it as 0. I think maybe you're right. It shouldn't be higher than fist fight because she probably has a sense of inferred danger from it.
Yeah.
She could easily hear, her colleagues talking about, getting stabbed or beaten.
But it's still like a theoretical possibility more so than practical experience.
Yes.
A monster. This is like magic, but worse.
This is like magic, but like immediately threatening.
An obviously paranormal entity which kills or preys upon people like a vampire, a wolfman, or a kelpie, particularly being like ambushed by one. If you were suddenly confronted with a xenomorph.
That'd be pretty scary.
I would piss my pants immediately.
If you were suddenly confronted with a vampire who was trying to kill you.
I feel like for a cat, that's just another predator, right? But that's also like a thing that you have to have a healthy fear of.
Yeah, although in the default of this fear, it is not necessarily trying to kill you.
That's true. It's just
the
existing
exacerbation. is that it's trying to kill you. The default modifier is that it is merely present.
The default is that it does kill or prey upon people as part of its existence, though.
Yes.
Okay.
But it's not necessarily hunting you.
Not necessarily, but it is an obvious theoretical danger.
Yeah, I think that's just like, if the cat can tell that's a predator that will hunt and kill smaller creatures for whatever reason, that's a thing to have a healthy fear of, right? That's a negative one or two.
Sure,
I was also thinking 1 or 2.
I feel like she would have a less severe reaction to that than magic.
Yeah, I don't even
Because
disagree with
as
that.
you mentioned, that's sort of just another predator to her,
Mm-hmm.
where she's already used to watching out for predators. Most humans are not.
I think -1.
Part of the stress of like a vampire reveal is the learning for these mundane characters that there are things that prey upon humans specifically.
Right, humans are so used to being at the top of the food chain, but a scrappy alley cat already isn't.
Already is
Yeah.
not the top of the food chain.
Okay, well that's interesting.
So like nothing changes for her.
Next up is
Yeah.
police, which I feel like is just, she doesn't even have a conception of what police are.
Yeah, that's just a guy who comes around and bees loud.
Yeah. I think animal control could be a stand-in for police with her.
That's not wrong.
Replace it with like animal control.
Yeah. I guess is she afraid of animal control, or does she think they're like clowns?
I think it'd be funny for her to think they are clowns because she has managed to escape them so often.
I feel like a 2 or a 3 is appropriate. Although I think a 2 would be good because that does still force her to make a roll.
Yeah.
As by the way, +3s on the tiers of fear can generally be completely skipped for characters that have that tier at a +3.
Okay.
Pretty often be completely skipped. An instance where it could never be skipped would be like if they have guns at +3 and they are shot and hit by a gun.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
They still need to...
Taking damage from a weapon always requires a composure roll for that weapon.
Right, even if they would normally be immune. Then poverty.
Poverty's gotta be a 3, right?
It's gotta be a +3, because she's already completely destitute.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So poverty, for anyone who doesn't know, is like the fear of being deprived of basic needs.
Not inherently the fear of poor people. It's the fear of the experience of poverty.
It's like, if you are worried that you are not gonna make rent the next month, that is a poverty composure roll in real life.
Yeah.
Been there.
Yeah.
And we were actually thinking of, at the time of, it's like March 18th or something.
We were thinking of making it like financial stress or
Yeah,
something.
we were thinking of changing that to financial stress instead of poverty because some people have assumed it is the fear of poor people and not the fear of the experience of being poor.
Right.
Yeah, I think financial stress would be a better
Well, like,
stand-in
okay.
word for it. Not to say that poverty is a bad one, just like you said, I think.
Yeah, they have. I mean, I'll keep this one sentence, but the reason why I think poverty is good is because it specifically comments on, like, class, which is a thing that Eureka cares about. But anyway.
I totally agree with that. Just, yeah, the average person reading might not.
Yeah, I think we probably will end up changing it. Yeah, vacuum cleaner. So we have also optional fears. That's all the mandatory fears. Optional fears may be like a vacuum cleaner. She hates vacuum cleaners. Or something
I could
like
see
that.
vacuum cleaner being like a -2.
I think maybe like,
Yeah.
instead of saying specifically vacuum cleaner, it might make more sense to say loud noises, because that's our
Yeah.
justification for putting gun at -3, right?
True,
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, loud noises and water were things that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we think? Loud noises -2, which
Sure. That's pretty bad.
That tracks. And then
and
deep
then, like-
water is the one on the list here, right?
Yeah, deep water is on the list, although she may just have a fear of water generally.
yes.
You could put regular water at a higher tier than deep water
You could do.
and like have them both.
I think deep water could be a horrific fear, but regular water could be more unnerving because she's absolutely been rained on, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Maybe like a creepy or something.
Yeah, we could put
She just
at
doesn't
least
like
one
it.
thing in creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really doesn't like it when this happens. But deep water, she can't swim, so like...
Yeah.
Deep water. Deep water's terrifying.
Terrifying or horrific?
Well, I mean, I was
Horrific.
saying terrifying, but horrific is fine. Which is the -3. Okay. Well, that's Tears of Fear taken care of. And I will say that that's good because a lot of the very best investigators will have one or two optional fears to, like, round them out.
Yeah. There's, I think, one more step. Oh, wait, no, there's 2 more steps. There's 2 more steps.
We don't really need to bother with either. We'll just see.
I want to bother with either.
Sure, we'll talk about it. So step 6 is determine truth. Choose truth. So truth is specifically one that doesn't have to be determined before play begins. It can be, and it's often a sign that someone has a good character concept, but it doesn't have to be. A truth is basically it is a strong aspect of someone's beliefs or personality. Whatever it is, it's going to be something that spurs them to action or gets them into trouble. So, like, we know that Pam Hammer is like a snoopy, curious cat. Like, and that could be her truth. Like, always poke into things, even if they're dangerous. Or, like, always sniff out always get involved, or something like that. Could be a good truth. But truths give a bonus when they're acted on. They provide a bonus to the next 5 rolls, a +1, which is a decent little bonus that will occasionally change the result of a roll. And this helps to round out a character. Generally, by this point in the character creation process, you either will know, like, you will have some ideas for potential truths, or you will be like, I bet that I will find out what the truth will be, like, in play.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
I mean, alright, Yvette Prue has curious, like, very curious on her truths already.
Yeah.
So curious is being, like, too curious for one's own good is a viable truth. So, like, too curious for her own good.
Or curious enough to kill a cat, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I like that. I think that could absolutely be a truth for Pam.
Yeah. So if you write that at the top right of the character sheet, characters can have multiple truths, but they don't need to have multiple truths.
Mm-hmm. Very frequently, characters will just have one, but 2 or 3 is common as well.
Okay.
So this means that, like, what this means now mechanically is that when she does something that, like, is spurring her to action or, like, kind of affecting what she would do in the scene or affecting the scene itself, that could fall under the umbrella of, like, being too curious or being really curious or, like, dangerously curious, then that would be called, acting on her truth. And that would mean that her next 5 skill checks have a +1 to them. And this is a bonus that can be benefited from once per scene.
Ooh.
I like that a lot. Because there is a problem with people who will make characters and then halfway through the game will have changed their mind about a bunch of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a mechanic that helps people stay more on target with what they originally...
The rulebook itself says this helps keep characters in character.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an incentive for characters to be who they are.
Yeah. It rewards a consistent personality in the character.
Yeah.
Because you don't want a group of investigators with, like, 3 wild cards in it,
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree at all. And I think I think that Eureka does a lot to try and make sure that these are people and not just like a collection of automatons who act however the situation demands.
Yeah.
They act with their own motives. But
Because
anyway.
a truth will pretty often cause a character to do something that is very suboptimal for the situation.
That causes drama.
Or causes them to get into trouble or something. And of course we reward that with the 5 +1s. But that just makes for more interesting situations in the game.
Absolutely. I love a good drama in my investigative mysteries,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. The last step of character creation is to determine inventory. So this is another thing that makes a lot more sense in the context of a module where like the parameters are set right at the beginning.
Yes.
And also makes a lot more sense for humans.
Yes. But I think it'll be interesting and fun to do it for a cat.
So the first thing to do is to determine wealth points. This is basically how many points she gets to spend on like having things on the item lists. The roll for this is 3d6 + 6 plus double wealth score. I'm going to go ahead and simplify that for you. She has a -3 in wealth, so the 6 cancels out. This is just a flat 3d6 roll.
And this is, I think, notably, something to note is that this does not work like inventory in a lot of other games. Inventory in Eureka is redone every adventure.
Correct. Character sheets are actually entirely remade every adventure.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So...
Kind of follows Blaze in the Dark or Essence 20 logic then.
Yes, there's downtime that is, like, mandated, basically.
Yeah, like, the results of the wealth roll and how many points you spend on giving this character items, that does not represent the entirety of their worldly possessions. It represents what they have access to during this adventure.
But this is going to determine what she has access to. So I've got dice in my hand here. Otherwise, if you want, you can go ahead and roll.
I usually do the rolls on here, but...
Go ahead.
Yes, by all means, go for it.
Okay. Well, the dice fall very high, actually.
Oh, nice.
That's 16 wealth points.
Wow.
16? Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez. Where are wealth points listed on the
They're not
sheet?
really listed anywhere because they're only used during character creation. But if you want to put them in unsecured for now, just to like as a notate.
Yeah. Wealth points do not exist in gameplay. They only exist in character creation.
Correct. Yeah, they're not a resource that is used in any circumstance outside of determining initial inventory.
Okay.
Cat's a bit of a hoarder then, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she's got to keep what she can, you know?
Now, the talking dog trait specifies that she cannot own other animals. So there are pets that are listed in the item lists, but she won't be able to access any of those.
Something, and like we're gonna have to when we get there in editing, I would like to like address or like think more seriously about how talking dog, the trait, affects wealth score. But for now, rules as written, it doesn't affect it.
I think it definitely should incur some penalty.
Yeah.
While it is a fun thing for people to choose and play, in actual gameplay, it would make no sense for a dog to have like an insane amount of stuff. Yeah.
To have a concept of money.
I think I would lower it to like 1d6 or something.
Something like that. I've made a note about it.
Yeah.
So armor, I don't imagine she has any armor. Like I don't think she would probably have a cat bulletproof vest.
Nah.
Or even a denim jacket, to be honest, although that would be sick.
I am thinking of her in a little fedora.
Are you thinking in a little fedora? Yeah, but that's not armor.
That's not armor. I'm just noting that I'm thinking of her in a little fedora.
Just flavor.
Put a pin in that. We'll get to that when we get to hats. There is a hat section, right?
There's no hats, I'm afraid. Those are free.
What?
Hats are free.
Oh, they're free. Okay.
They're free.
I was
They don't affect anything.
I was like, like every investigator has a hat. Come on.
Yeah. That's why they're free.
Okay, good.
Gadgets. I mean, she could have gadgets. She is a talking cat. She could be microchipped.
Well, she's not microchipped because she's not.
That's right. She's an alley cat.
Yeah.
She could have stolen someone's phone.
I mean, she could also just have a phone. Like, okay, so we've said that she is a private investigator,
right?
Which means she has a job, and people, presumably humans, come to her and say, "Can you get me some information that I can't get myself?"
That implies that she has like an office.
Yes, which implies she has some kind of office.
So, would we think like only landline since she doesn't really have a way to carry?
I feel like she wouldn't have a landline because I think her office is like a cardboard box.
Oh.
Yeah, I was maybe not a cardboard box, but like, you know, some kind of shanty town like shelter out in an alley,
she's got a shack.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something that's gonna hold up to the rain maybe, but not much else.
Okay, so I think a flip phone would be probably the better option here.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got a flip phone. She knows how to press the answer button and the end call button.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does she have, like, spy tool shit? Does she have, like, an audio recorder bug? Like, does she have, like, a microphone bug? Or, like, a video? Or, like, a camera bug?
I don't know about that.
I feel like she wouldn't know how to operate that.
I feel like that would be, well...
She doesn't have a high technology score, let's remember that.
She doesn't have a high technology score.
Though she may never know how to turn on a mic.
She may know how to turn on a mic. She may also have, like... She's a talking cat, so she may be able to, like, tell someone, you know, put this body cam on me.
Right.
True.
And turn it on, and then I'll take off my fedora and go in there and just meow like a normal cat. They won't know that they're being recorded.
Yeah. That would be pretty smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a good argument for, like, an audio recorder.
Maybe, or like a camera that even has, like, an onboard mic, like a video camera.
I'm into that. Just has to get someone to help her.
Yeah, she could have a concealable video camera for 5 wealth points.
Okay. We do have a lot of wealth points, so...
That's a way to burn wealth points for her.
Yeah.
Where is the...
It's right there. Camera HQ video. You can see that it says to add wealth point for notable features.
Okay, so camera HQ image.
You think she would just, like, keep the pack of 100 glow sticks? You know, doesn't have, like, actual electric lighting in her shelter.
Oh, does Pam Hammer go to raves?
She doesn't need lighting because she can see mostly in the dark.
Well, the lighting might not be for her. It might be for clients.
Real quick, one question.
Yeah.
Camera HQ image, we added mic and added what else?
It's concealable, but an HQ video camera doesn't require a microphone.
It already has a mic, yeah.
Yeah, it already has a mic in it because it's recording video, but let me note that as a comment.
And yeah, write down her cell phone too.
So, HQ video, concealable still.
Yeah, concealable. Well, that's five wealth points, so you can bring it down to 11 over there on the other side.
And the flip phone was 1 wealth point?
The flip phone is 1, yes. Where does she stay? Does she just literally sleep in an alley, or does she have, like, a semi-permanent residence?
I think she is in an alley, and her office, quote-unquote, is an alley.
Okay, so she totally no home.
Her office is like, her desk is a desk that somebody threw away.
Yeah.
The desk might be the shelter.
Well, the desk
might
be worth putting in there. However, we don't have any homebrew allowed.
Yeah.
Which means we can't, it's not listed in miscellaneous, so we can't have a random desk.
I would call it, well, yeah, what that means, though, is that it would not be considered for wealth points, meaning that it's basically free.
Okay.
Meaning that for mechanical purposes, she does not have a home.
Still homeless, we could say she's got some, like, we have described her having this, like, sort of shack-like thing, but, like, that is just, like, scrap that has been thrown together to keep the rain off.
A desk that she sleeps under could be considered for tent. Like,
yeah, that's what I was
that's
thinking.
true. Yeah, maybe a tent for 1 wealth point, which is basically
being homeless. Like,
yeah, because I've seen homeless people with tents.
Yeah.
So 9, that brings her down to 9 if we're going to count her, like, her cardboard box as a shelter from the rain.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
So, medicine, does she, like, even need medicine? This is stuff like crutches or a cane.
Oh, no.
Does not have a bionic eye.
No.
No.
Melee weapons? No.
Probably not.
No.
Brass knuckles.
Miscellaneous stuff here. So, like, one of the things that she can fill out her wealth points with is food budget. Like, she just has, like, a stockpile, or she's able to hunt.
Oh, yeah.
Which means that she doesn't need to make wealth checks for meals. But let's consider anything else that she might have in the miscellaneous category. Let me just look over this. This is like glasses, rice.
Now, pack of cigarettes, though. If we
Does she
want her to
smoke?
have that voice.
Does this cat vape?
Is this cat's technology score high enough for her to vape?
Does this cat
Do
smoke?
you have to have a good technology score to vape?
No.
If you're a cat, you do.
True.
Well, she could have somebody light cigarettes for her.
Yeah. Now, hold on. Unrelated to the podcast. If you handed somebody a cigarette and a vape and told them to smoke one of them, which one do you think they would have an easier time smoking?
Oh, the cigarette for sure.
Well, just out of the box, if you don't also hand them a lighter.
That's also true.
Well, yeah, I'm going to say lighter included.
Okay, then the cigarette.
Yeah. I don't know. She could be a hard-bitten... She's a hard-boiled private eye. This cat can smoke.
Yeah, sure, why not?
I have video evidence that cats can smoke.
Hold on, what? You have video evidence?
This is from a video game.
Okay. I think I know what game you're talking about, but I can't remember the name of it.
I don't know either. I would love to tell you.
So we could just give her a pack of cigarettes if we wanted to drop a wealth point.
Give her a pack of cigarettes.
That's her Scooby snacks.
Absolutely.
Oh, also, the tent goes in that smaller box above here.
That's true.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
The tent is her home.
Yeah, the tent is her.
I wasn't sure.
And if you could put in parentheses next to tent, that is a PM of -7, that is property modifier. That means that basically it's impossible for her to just, like, decide she has shit in that tent.
Oh.
But sometimes it might be, there are some, like, homes and stuff where it's like, oh yeah, it would make sense for this character to, like, have that already in their home. And then there would be a wealth roll made with that property modifier to see if they do.
Alright. But again, assuming that this home, quote unquote, is also a office that people visit, would it make sense for her, because she obviously doesn't have, like, electric lighting or anything, would it make sense for her to have either the flashlight or the glow sticks to just provide some lighting?
To provide lighting in her little cardboard box.
Give her a flashlight.
Yeah, I think flashlight.
By all means.
Yeah, for the comfort of her guests, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Now, I don't actually know if the March version that you have has other property listed underneath miscellaneous.
Oh yeah, we got it.
Oh yeah, cool. This would be like a small business, but she doesn't have a formal office.
No, her business is too small to be considered a small business.
Her office is already her home.
Right.
Yeah.
So she doesn't own property.
No.
Does she have a vehicle? Probably not.
No.
No.
Unless she owns a skateboard, which is radical.
True.
We've made skateboarded cats before.
We have. I've seen cats skateboard on their own.
Or unless she owns a car, she does not own a car, but she does have a driver's license.
She could have a skateboard. I feel like she could have a skateboard.
She could have a skateboard.
Let's give her a skateboard.
That would be in her vehicle.
It wouldn't really be like, this wouldn't make her a skateboarding cat as much as it would just be like, this is a means of transportation. I don't know if she does tricks on it.
Yeah, she's not out here doing kickflips and, impossible 180s. She's strictly just using this to get from place to place.
I mean, for a cat, a skateboard is basically a hand cart.
Yes.
Yeah.
True.
This lets her move slightly faster with less effort.
Yeah.
Honestly, whether she has a skateboard or not, I would just apply all the rest of it to food budget. That's my opinion.
Yeah. The skateboard goes in the little box above vehicle security.
Right. Thank you.
It is the vehicle.
Yeah.
It is the vehicle, yes, you're right.
There's no PM listed because that's not allowed. Yeah, nothing is on the skateboard.
You said we should put our last 3 into wealth points, right?
I would say that every other remaining wealth point should be put into food budget, which is basically 1 day of food per wealth point spent.
Yeah.
Which just means that she doesn't need to worry about making wealth rolls. She can just hunt freely. Flavor-wise, I would say that she can just hunt freely, or she has like a stockpile.
Adventures in Eureka tend to last like 1 to 2 weeks of game time.
I'd say even shorter. They last
even shorter a lot of
3
times.
days to 2 weeks.
3 days to 2 weeks. And so spending a wealth point on food budget basically makes the character food secure for those days, and that can save them a lot. That can save a lot of stress.
It can. On average, it means that they're losing
less composure.
I would say on average, it means they're losing 1 or 2 less composure a day, which is quite good.
I feel like 6 days worth of food is probably not a lot for a cat,
Yeah.
Maybe a loaf of bread she found.
She's got some food. So that's good. That is the end of the character creation process. You have made an actual cat in Eureka. The only thing to discuss is whether she should have 5 of each HP type. Because there are rules for making different creatures in Eureka. In this case, I would say that this is, I guess, a little bit bigger than like a bat, which is a thing that a vampire can transform into.
They don't transform; they remanifest.
That's sorry, they remanifest. I apologize.
Yes,
it's a very specific. Vampires work a very specific way. But where is that? Bloodthirsty. Oh, here we go. Remanifestation. Yes. So bats have, I think, 1 of each HP. Is that right?
I think it has.
They have 3.
That has 3, right?
Yeah, that has 3. So if a bat has 3 and an elderly person has 3 of each HP, I think that a cat has 3 of each HP.
Yeah.
I believe it.
Okay. Just uncheck these.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. This means that a bullet will kill Pam immediately.
That's fair.
Yep, I believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's hard-boiled, but she is not immune to death.
No. And I think that is Pam made. I don't think that there's anything else that needs to be done.
We tally up rules broken.
Rules broken. Let's talk about that.
Yes. So I've got in my notes right now, supposed to be human or dog, ? Most monsters are considered human. So basically just supposed to be a human, right? And then we've adapted the talking dogs rules.
I guess you could say that we changed the default investigator HP.
Yeah.
True.
I feel like this is only 2 rules broken, because adapting the talking dog is not... I feel like adapting the talking dog and making the character not a human, that's not 2 separate rules broken. That's only 1 rule broken.
Sure, that's kind of the same rule, right?
Yeah, it's the same rule.
So maybe it is only 2 rules broken to make a cat.
Okay. Well, there
I don't know if that's a particularly low score, but
it's average.
Okay.
Yeah, very average. We typically only break 1 to 2 rules per. A lot of them surprisingly loose.
I think the highest we've ever broken was like 4 rules in total.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's Pam Hammer, and I love her.
She's so great.
What was the game that had 4 rules broken?
I can't remember off the top of my head. Was it a Star Wars game or was it It was something that was kind of surprising, because it was some Powered by the Apocalypse game, and we were surprised, because typically those are like...
very open.
Yeah, so relaxed usually on that kind of thing. Was it Avatar?
I think it was Avatar.
I found that Powered by the Apocalypse is really restrictive on character creation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree, but we can get into that some other day, maybe.
Yeah.
I think it was Avatar solely because Avatar has the combo animal rules in its universe. Even the hold on, I'm about to spit.
Yeah, there aren't cats in Avatar.
Hold on, I'm about to
only
spit
cat
my
holes.
shit real
There
quick.
would be cat. Yeah, it would cats. Cat plus something.
There are cats and regular cats and regular dogs in Avatar. They are shown animated on screen, but they are never talked about.
They're spirits.
No, not spirits. Okay, so specifically, you can see a regular ass dog in one of the desert episodes of Avatar The Last Airbender, specifically when they go into the Oasis town. There is a regular dog licking the giant ice pillar thing before they walk into the bar.
Well, how about that?
Are we sure it's not like a cat dog or a?
No, it's just a regular ass dog.
Okay.
But it is never mentioned. It is just animated as a background thought, but it does not look like any combination. It straight up just looks like a dog. There is also Bosco the bear, which is just a bear.
That's true. I was thinking of that, but that's not a cat.
Not a
No.
cat.
Not a cat.
There is a literal cat, but that's what I was talking about when I was saying it was a spirit. Because, like, I thought that I remember there being a cat, and so I went and looked it up, and it was just a spirit.
Yes,
Yeah.
there is a spirit cat.
Well, this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is great.
I had a good time.
Yeah.
I do really like your system that
Thank you.
you all have put
Mhm.
together.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, like I said, I'm a huge fan of any game that kind of, tries to pivot from the norm of stuff. Also, I'm just a sucker for games that are all more story-centric than they are anything else, because that's my favorite part of tabletop role-playing games, is being able to tell a story with your homies.
We think that mechanics are the wind behind the sails of stories, but if we get into that, we're going to be here for another 12 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No. I can definitely see where you're coming from with that.
Eureka's good for stories because it has lots of rules and mechanics.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. Absolutely. Really dig the system. I can't wait to see in full version.
We're really excited for it. We're hoping for a release sometime later this year.
Yeah.
Like an actual physical release.
Ooh.
It's going to take a while.
It's going to take
Like,
a while and a lot
several
of work.
months, at least.
So much work.
I'll keep my eyes peeled.
That's why I'm making sure that stuff like Silk and Dagger. I actually put myself to a 300 page limit on Silk and Dagger.
Oh, is this the time where we plug ourselves?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I put myself to a 300 page limit on Silk and Dagger, and I'm not giving myself a limit on the other game, Deathbed. I'm realizing that Deathbed is going to be quite the detailed thing, much like Eureka, but it will not be as big as Eureka.
Okay, let me formalize that. Hey, Anim has a bunch of projects that we're doing. We're an independent TTRPG studio. We've got a very small team, 8 people. Really, on our actual full-time staff is 4 people, and then we have freelance artists that we pay. But we consider them part of the team because they're awesome and we love them.
And also, I'm the only one that's actually full time.
That's correct. Cap is the only one that's actually full, or Addison is the only one that's actually full-time. But Anim is doing a lot of stuff. We've got Eureka, which is a huge system. It's so much bigger than we ever should have attempted. Please don't do something this big as your first project.
Yeah. It's a miracle and also really impressive that we pulled it off with such a small team.
Correct. But we have Eureka, which you've just listened to. We have Silk and Dagger, which is a social politics /sitcom/comedy game about what if the Forgotten Realms drow existed and actually what set of incentives would actually lead to that society. I'm not going to get more into it. You can look it up. You should look it up. It's awesome. We have Deathbed, which is a Dark Souls inspired dungeon crawler, which is in the very early stages of development. We're going to be putting those out on itch.io and Patreon. Please come check us out. We have the RPG Book Club, the Indie RPG Book Club. It's a Discord server where we bring people in and we play a different game over the course of several weeks or several months and talk about it.
Yeah, the whole club votes on what game to do.
Exactly.
Oh, neat.
And then everyone plays it.
It's totally open. You can come join for free. There's no requirements. We would love to see you there. We love to talk about things. It's a welcoming community. We've got the Patreon server if you join our Patreon. The itch.io, everything that we make is pay what you want forever. You want to come in and get it for free, then you can come in and get it for free. We benefit more from that anyway.
If it's digital. Can't do that with books. We can't do that with real physical.
We can't do that with physical books.
No.
But the PDFs we can do that with. And we would love for you to have a look at our stuff for free. Tell us what you think about it. If you want to give us money, we're so grateful for that.
And we need it.
And we do need it.
I pay my bills with this stuff.
Fair.
Yeah, we've got our itch.io, we've got our Tumblr, we've got our Discord servers. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for supporting us if you choose to do so. But I think that's what we've got to plug.
If y'all want any help with that Souls-inspired TTRPG, let me know, because I am currently working my way through the Souls games.
Ooh, yo, hop in the Patreon Discord.
I would love to.
Yeah, we're developing it there right now. We're having a lot of fun with it.
But yeah, I've been hearing so much on Tumblr for the past few months about the development of Eureka, and it has been interesting, so I am really glad we were able to get you on the show for that.
Thank you so much for having us.
Oh, yeah, this was a lot of fun. Thank you guys for being here.
But I think that's all we have.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Avalon, you know what to do.
All right. What does a cat call a news article that satisfies their itch for knowledge?
What?
A scratching post.
Ah!
Not bad.
Thank you. Thank you, audience, for listening. We will see you. You will hear us next time.
I'll see you.
Whoa.